Hello friends, and welcome to the Hanged Man in the Moon. If this is your first time here, welcome. Thank you for coming. I'm pleased to meet you. If you've been here before, thank you for returning. I'm truly honored. Friends, if you are a returning visitor, you certainly know that this is my deep dive into a deck that I like to think of as a masterclass. Yeah, this deck has taught me so much, and it's a brilliant and edifying and expanding deck, and it's called the Egyptian Tarot by the Brotherhood of Light. And I'm using both the modern color version of it and also the cards as they were originally designed by C.C. Zane back in like the 1930s. But my copy of the deck is from around the time I was born. So what do I do? Just in case you're new here. Every night before I go to bed, I riffle shuffle my mass market color edition of the Egyptian Tarot, and I pull my daily draw card. The question I ask when I shuffle the deck is, what would I benefit from giving my attention to in the following day? And then I pull the card, and then I pull the matching card from my very out of print charcoal gray and white version of the deck. And I look at them, I look at the similarities, I notice some of the differences, and then I ask for help from a second deck, a deck that I'm a little more used to because I've been working with it for pretty steadily for the last 7 months. It's called The Tarot of the Holy Light by the brilliant Christine Payne-Towler. And I do a 3-card spread using that deck. The first card is the significance of the daily draw card for me for the following day. The second card is the challenge, either positive or negative. And the third card is advice. Significance, challenge, advice. Typical 3-card spread. And so I go to bed, I wake up, the next day I live my life, and then I come back at the end of the day and I analyze the spread and how it helped me understand the daily draw card for the day and how those significances, those meanings, those attributions either revealed themselves to me during the day, or perhaps I still need to do a little bit more soul searching to unpack it more, because the cards don't lie, right? The cards don't lie. We just need to do a little bit more reflection to gather the meaning, to absorb and translate the meaning for us at that time. And so that's what I'm doing now. And then I come back and I do this video. So here we are. And friends, I've got the daily draw card all ready for us. Let's take a look at that right now. The daily draw card for me for today was the Magus. And if you've been following me, you'll know that this card has been stalking me, as they say. I don't know, well, maybe you don't think it's stalking at me, but it's shown up for me at least, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 times. This is the 5th time that it's shown up for me during this deep dive I'm doing. Yeah, it showed up on January 20th, on January 30th, and on February 10th with the Ace of Wands, which is going to be interesting in a little bit. And it also appeared with the Ace of Wands on February 4th. So, I mean, we've got this Magus popping up for me quite a bit. And it's a card that I generally love, and at the same time, often feel a little bit of disappointment when it shows up, because things never seem to live up to my expectations. I have very high expectations and high hopes around the Magus that don't always seem to really fulfill themselves. You know what I mean? Yeah, that ride at Disneyland wasn't as great as I expected it to be. So now I just realized today that I've never really done a good description of this card has shown up 5 times, and I haven't given you a really good description of what it is that we're looking at when we see the Magus. So let me show you them both to you right now. They're pretty much the same. Yeah, the charcoal gray and white version is a little bit more difficult to see the detail because of the a little bit smudged quality to the line work. But there are some differences that you might notice, like the face of the Magus is a little different from the color version and the black and white. It's not just the color, it's also one of them has a beard, one does not. The facial structure is a little bit different to me. Both look Egyptian, but a very different kind of Egyptian. Also, the bird looks different to me. But let me give you a description of what we're looking at here. Yeah, the Arcanum 1, the Magus, is pictured as the perfect man. His robe is white for purity, original or regained. A serpent biting its own tail serves him for a girdle, a belt. Do you see that serpent around his waist? I hadn't really noticed that before. His forehead is girt with a circle of gold. The gold signifies light. The circle expresses the universal circumference in which gravitate all created things. In his right hand, he holds a scepter of gold as well, surmounted by a circle representing spirit. He also raises it towards heaven as the sign of aspiration to science, wisdom, and force. And force, that's an interesting thing, right? Science, wisdom, and force. Above is a four-pointed star, its rays extending heavenward. It is the overshadowing genius of this spiritual master, directing his efforts and consulting him in his upward struggles. Upward struggles, that's an interesting selection of words, right? His left hand extends the index finger to the earth to show that the mission of this perfect man is to reign over the material world. Now, before the Magus, upon the cube stone are placed a cup, a sword, and a piece of gold money, in the center of which is engraved a cross. Do you see those on top of the box? It's easier to see them in the color version, I think. The cup signifies the mixture of the passions which contribute to happiness and unhappiness. Yeah, the water suit, right? The sword signifies the work, the struggle, which traverses obstacles, and the trials which sorrow submits us to. And for him, that is the suit of earth. The coin, sign of determined value, is the symbol of realized aspirations, of work accomplished, and shows the sun of power conquered by the perseverance and efficacy of the will. And so it's the suit of the mind, the air. The cube upon which these symbols rest typifies the physical world, the cross of matter. And graven on this side is the ibis to indicate that eternal vigilance is a necessity of physical limitations, if physical limitations are to be surmounted. Ow, sorry, my shoulder was starting to hurt there, and so I was having a hard time reading. So let me say that again. Yeah, the ibis is to indicate that the eternal vigilance is necessary if physical limitations are to be surmounted. But the ibis is also the bird of the Thoth, right, of wisdom. And Thoth relates to Mercury, right? Thoth is for the Egyptians what Mercury basically is for the Greeks, and then Hermes is for the Romans. But you'll notice that, I'm sorry, just a second. Mercury is for the Romans as Hermes is to... Now I'm all confused. Which one's Greek, which one's Hermes, which one's Roman? Let's see. Jupiter and Mercury are Greek. Zeus and Hermes are Roman. Yes, okay, I think so. God, I hope I'm right. Anyways, so what is the planet for this card? What is the planetary association? It is Mercury, right? So we've got Thoth represented in the ibis, but also the card indicates Mercury. And so what do we get here? We get that the Magus is Mercury, which resides in which signs? Mercury resides in both Gemini and Virgo. So we've got from this Mercury beaming through its domiciles of Gemini and Virgo, we have mutable air and mutable earth energies entering our world, entering our lives, entering our charts, and entering the question that we were asking of the tarot at the moment, which for me was, what would I best pay attention to in the following day? And that's to be mutable, earthy, and airy, right? Which is interesting also because, remember, in this deck, Air and earth are the ones that are, for most of us, we think of them as being switched. Now, the swords in this deck are not air but earth, and the discs in this deck are not earth but air. So that's another interesting little tidbit right there, right? That the first card gives us the signs of the for me, flipped elements. And being the first card in the major arcana, it is number 1, and therefore it represents also Aleph. Yeah, we can see the Aleph down here at the bottom. And the Aleph indicates things like oneness, unity, connection with the root for, what I'm trying to say is that Aleph is also connected with the root word for the word master in Hebrew, especially master of the Torah. So that idea of mastery is also associated with Aleph. Aleph is associated with the God-man connection, God-man unity. As in we are the eternal beings having a human experience. That's one modern way of expressing that, I think. Also, Aleph is the bull for strength. And perhaps the pre-monotheistic bull god. Now, we sometimes think of the pre-human culture times. I mean, the times that we think of as the beginnings of human culture. I don't buy into that timeline, but the time that we think of as the beginnings of human culture, the time before that was we had the age of Aquarius, was the age of Taurus. And so perhaps the bull god was, and we also have the Minotaur being a prehistoric god being which was conquered by the more modern Greeks, right? So that the idea of the bull god is perhaps predates modern records. So that's what I was that's where I'm going with that, if that means anything to you. Interesting, thinking of the bull, the first letter of the runes is Fehu. And Fehu is the rune associated with things like cattle, livestock, wealth. But the wealth that is not inherited or that magically appears like in good fortune, but the wealth that is worked for, and we work to maintain it, like you would maintain a herd of cattle, for example. Sustenance, energy, fertility. Also, hope and abundance and success are indicated by Fehu. So we've got a lot of really positive things around the first letters of alphabets, both the Hebrew and the runes. And those are all indicated in the Magus as possibilities. Now, the guidebook for the Magus tells us things of will or dexterity. It asks us to take the initiative. Yeah, we will things into matter, we will things into existence, and that requires a little bit of initiative. Gained through persistence as well. Willpower. Yeah, willpower to win over obstacles. Also, mind over matter. Yeah, thoughts create things, that kind of thing. Acquiring by action, applying energy with compassion. Faith in a higher power. The Magus has just arrived into physical form in the progression of the trumps, right? And so the Magus is still very well connected with the spiritual nature that he is, she is, they are, and being embodied now, being incarnated now into the physical plane. So that connection with the divine is still fairly strong. Also, justice through integrity. I like that too. A little bit in left field, but it's one of the attributes for this card. So it's a beautiful card, full of power and potential and creation and abundance. Which is, I hear all those things and my mind just goes, wow, and then I have a fairly ordinary day and I'm like, oh man. So we're not exactly there yet. I'm not telling you what my day has been like so far. We're not there. I'm just telling you I often get very disappointed when I get this card because my mind, again, it's me, it's not the card, it's me, goes off into these, wow, all of these possibilities, and then that's all that happened. Well, okay, so I asked the Tarot of the Holy Light to give me a little bit of help with this card, and so well, let me show you that 3-card spread right now. The 3 cards helping me to unpack the Magus today were, in order from left to right, the 3 of Discs, beautiful card, the King of Wands, upright this time. He appeared reversed a few days ago. And then the Ace of Wands, which has appeared a few times for me as well during this deep dive. But let's start with the 3 of Discs. It's a beautiful card. Here it is. It's also a very intricate card. You just saw it, but there's so much here. There are, did you notice that there are 2 birds there? There's a male figure and a female figure flanking a globe, right? With the sun and the moon. On top, there is perhaps an eagle ready to take flight, but underneath there's a red bird, kind of looking like it's being crushed by the weight of the world, right? Interesting. Very, very interesting. And of course, the actual world is beneath the bird, so it's not the world crushing down on him. He's being crushed by the weight of the heavens, I guess. We got the sun in front of the world. It's the plants growing up on the side. It's a very fertile looking card. And these beautiful male and female figures, again, flanking the celestial heavens with a bird on top and a bird below. And you see at the bottom that we have the planet Mercury and the sign Capricorn. And why do we have that there? Well, it's because the 3 of Discs points to the Virgo decanate of Capricorn and its subruler Mercury, from which the mutable aspect of cardinal Earth's vital attributes enter our world, enter our natal charts, enter the question we're asking of the tarot. And yes, again, we have Mercury here and Mercury here. So a nice little tie-in there, right? And but Mercury is not in their proper home. They're in their domicile's room in the home of Capricorn. But it's not a very uncomfortable match. Yeah, and this is the 3rd decanate. Remember, each zodiacal sign has 3 decanates, 3 groups of 10 degrees, a decanate. And this is the 3rd decanate of the sign of Capricorn. And because it is the 3rd decanate, being an upright card, we have an exaltation. And the exaltation is Saturn in Libra. And frankly, Saturn is not unhappy in Libra. Saturn is exalted in Libra. Yeah, that the planet of limitations and harshness and boundaries and gotta get it right and you better do it or else is happy in the sign of relationship, of balance, of beauty of the mind. Interesting, yes? But we're not quite there yet. Let's start off with Mercury being here. And the 3 of Discs appeared as a challenge card for me on January 3rd, right at the beginning of this deep dive, which was interesting. What does the 3 of Discs mean to us? Yeah, it is an earth suit, like I said. It's idealism is one way to think of it, the 3 of Discs. Self-mastery leading to mastery of self. Interesting, right? Also achieving a masterwork. Yeah, finding the right set and the right setting to place our talents to create this magnificent work of whatever it is, work of art, work of music, work of business, work of any creation. It's also an internal balancing act, which we get with that Libra association, right? Saturn in Libra. But Mercury in Capricorn gives us things like the building of ideas, our thoughts coming down to earth, our ideas are realistic, and communication becomes very clear. Now, thinking and acting in ways that will help us reach our goals. Mercury here being in, again, the Virgo decade of Capricorn. Capricorn working to reach goals, and Virgo being very, meticulous, orderly. And Mercury brings all of that into its communication skills and into its ability to think and act in ways to help us do what Capricorn wants to do, which is reach a goal. Saturn in Libra. Saturn in Libra focuses on our relationships, and it reminds us that the hindrances that we will experience with Saturn being in Libra will help us see where we need to put our effort to make concrete changes. Those hindrances help us. Maturity, discipline, and commitment allow partnerships to flourish. And that maturity and discipline and commitment come from Saturn. Creations are massive and slow with Saturn at the helm. Now, Saturn loves doing big things. It's a big planet. It's out there at the very, very edge of our visible universe. Our visible, when modern scientists say visible universe, they mean something very different. Our classically visible universe, when we didn't have massive telescopes to look up into the sky, when we were standing on hills to get a better look of the sky, there was the last planet that we were able to see was Saturn. So that's what I mean by the edge of the visible universe, to the naked eye. So that was interesting. That's helping me unpack this, right? That there might be some difficulties, that there might be some challenges, but those challenges would be there to help me grow and to help me. And there's communication and relationship involved in those things, right? So this Three of Discs helping me unpack this, pointing me to the need for me to master myself as a Magus, to balance myself internally to be able to fulfill this, and that communication is important and must be clear, and those things which are obstacles are here to help me to make concrete and positive changes. I mean, those are just some of the things that come to mind as this card unpacks this. And so we have the challenge, which I think is a positive challenge, with the King of Wands. And here we have this beautiful King of Wands. And this King of Wands was an advice card, but in reverse on February 9th. This card has shown up once before, but in reverse. And the King of Wands, you see down here, we have Leo, which is me. My sun sign is Leo. So the King of Wands points to Leo, which is the domicile of the sun, from which these fixed fire's vital attributes enter our world. So my challenge is to be me, in a sense. When we look at this card, I'd like you to notice some things here. The king is holding this stick, this cut off tree. There's a tree that he's holding on to, and that tree is still rooted in the ground, but has none of its branches or leaves, right? That tree, do you notice that it has burst into flame at the top? There are like two flames at the very, very top. Let me see if I can put my finger on them. Do you see those two flames up there? I had never noticed them until today. Those two flames are there. And also, surrounding his head, he has the 72 names of God. How cool is that? So this king has the king's touch. He has Magus blood, according to the guidebook. I'm just saying. According to the guidebook, this king has Magus blood. I will say no more. Uh, he's a charismatic leader who doesn't require much downtime, and when he does get downtime, he can get irritable. He inspires his followers, or her followers, or their followers. Remember, we are all kings of wands. Does not make any difference what kind of body we are living in, whether we are in a male body, a female body, a trans body, a body in transition, a body that is hermaphroditic, whatever body we inhabit. We are all kings, we're all queens, we're all knights, we're all pages, we are all of that in the tarot. And so, this king, again, inspires followers, but must be careful of their pride. This king craves big assignments, something that can be done spectacularly, but without interference from the outside. This king wants to do it big, but kind of on his, her, or their own. It's impossible for this king to have any neutral impact wherever he, she, or they go. Yeah, this king cannot be anonymous. People either love or hate, or run to or away from this king. And people project the hell out on this king too. Yeah, people's projections can be a burden on this king. So the challenge is not to be projected upon, or to be too sensitive, or to overwork either. But it's to realize the charismatic power that I think and we all have in us, and that we can inspire other people. Rather than command and make people do things for us or with us, we can inspire people to be with us, to exist with us, to be active with us, to create with us. Because, of course, even this king knows, I believe, that when he, she, or they are doing this magnificent solo act, it's never a solo act. It's always a co-creation, right? And so, for the advice, now this is where I thought, oh man, really? When this card showed up, yeah? I mean, I love the Ace of Wands, but the Ace of Wands showed up again in reverse. And the Ace of Wands has shown up 6 times in this deep dive, one more than the Magus itself. It's been in reverse 3 times now, and it has shown up upright twice. This being the 4th reverse of this Ace of Wands. And I'm sorry. No, let me say this again. I read my notes wrong. The Ace of Wands has shown up 6 times in this deep dive. It's been in reverse 3 times now. 3 times upright, 3 times reverse. It has shown up upright twice with the Magus as an advice once on January 30th and as a significance card on February 4th. So this card has shown up twice before with the Magus. And this is the 3rd time it's shown up with the Magus, which is a little bit interesting because when we think of the Magus, one of the things that this Magus is the most closely associated with is the wand. Now the cup, the sword, the coin are on the table, which are his tools, but the one that he's actually holding and in the process of using and drawing, perhaps even drawing down that star with, is the wand. So, yeah, let me show you this beautiful card. This beautiful card, like the king here, is holding on to the plant that has little bursts of flames on it, but it's still planted in the ground, yeah? This divine hand is holding on to this plant, which is just sprouted up from the ground. Maybe this plant will become this tree for the king. Who knows? Maybe. We see fire behind. We also see this great disc in the background. And for the longest time, I didn't recognize that was not a sunflower. Every time I looked at this card, I immediately thought sunflower. which isn't weird, right? Because sunflowers are associated with the suit of wands as well. But this looks like a very, like an alchemical sunflower to me. And yes, the sunflower, a flower of the sun, of the fire. Well, this card came up as reversed. So, what is that telling us? Well, we've got this being the first decadent of Aries. It means it is the Aries decadent of Aries, which is, and its sub-ruler is Mars, from which the cardinal aspect of cardinal fire's vital attributes enter our world. So we've got cardinal fire supersized here. But Mercury, when it's upright, Mercury in Aries, I'm sorry, not Mercury in Aries, Mars in Aries is coming out of the gate fresh, clear. Not overdoing it, not underdoing it, but let's get going. Let's start this show. Kind of motivations and attitudes, I believe. However, we got this in reverse, which means that instead of just being a plain old domicile of Mars in Aries, we've got a similar, which is Mars in Scorpio, and the other side of the zodiac, on the dry ascending way. Aries is on the wet way coming down, Scorpio is on the dry way going up, and it's the more mature of the two signs, right? He says, being a Scorpio ascendant. So this is Mars in Scorpio, which is intuitive and persistent and driven. Driven in a very different way than Mars in Aries is driven. Mars in Aries is driven in the sense of, let's get going. Hard, right? Mars in Scorpio is, I'm going to do this thing and nothing and no one is going to stop me. There's a very different thing, right? And I get that attitude from my grandmother, who was a Scorpio sun, by the way. So, and who was also a card reader, but that's another story entirely. So, yeah, Mars in Scorpio. So in reverse, what do we get? We get the idea of premature termination of long-desired plans. That doesn't sound so good. The starts that have been spoiled, openings that are postponed, poor handoff, like, let's get this project moving, here you go, and that the baton just drops to the ground. Sometimes circumstances just won't allow the intended outcome to happen. They won't allow this beautiful little sprout to continue growing. Circumstances will just knock it over and kill it. Or at least snip it off before it can grow. And maybe we'd have to wait a cycle, because that's the next thing. Even though this card is reversed, we still have our free will. Our will is still free to focus on our desire, to make preparations, to clear obstacles, and empower change. Knowing that things right now are not the right environment, things or circumstances or times or people are not ready for it, but we can still empower the change for the circumstances to become what would be beneficial for our beautiful little sapling to really grow. We can dedicate this moment to projects that will get us started when the time is ripe, in a new direction. And I think those last two things are the actual advice from the Ace of Wands reversed. It's not that, well, whatever you're gonna do as the Magus, it's not gonna happen. It's gonna fall flat on its face. So just let it go. Just forget about it. That's not what it's trying to say, I don't think. I think it's saying that, yes, we've got all this power, but don't expect results to happen right now. This is the time of preparation, right? And even this king can be busy and what do we delayed. This king can also is mature enough to accept delayed gratification, I believe. This king is willing to be busy doing the stuff that will prepare for like a bamboo shoot. Did that seem completely out of left field? Like a bamboo shoot. Do you know about the life cycle of a bamboo shoot? Well, a bamboo shoot will grow very, very slowly. It will just barely peek its head out of the ground, and it'll take a long, long time. And then suddenly, in like a matter of days, it'll go from like this to like this 6-foot tall plant. And it can do that because of all the preparation and the stuff that was happening there right at and beneath the surface, right? So the king, I think, could be happy doing that. It's not a matter of, well, I'll just sit back and wait for this thing to start happening. The king is there doing that work of making it prepared to do that final shoot so that it becomes this huge, massive, grand thing. And I think that's perhaps what this card in reverse is giving me advice for. Does that make sense? So, what? Today. Well, today I went in and I finished editing the last video for the first week of classes, and I uploaded them all onto our learning management system, which means our computer system that students can access and find the online materials for the courses. So I uploaded all the materials. I edited and changed the due dates for those videos because the school put them at a very unreasonably, they gave them a very unreasonably late due date for the first week of watching videos, and I want them to watch the video before the second week of classes. So I went in and edited the due dates, and I made sure that I put information on the site saying, please watch these videos before the second week of class, did all that busy work, which I guess is that what I was saying. It's not the actual classes being taught, but it's the preparations for things so that things will be launched well in the future, right? I hadn't really thought of that until just now, but yeah. Also, I got contact. A very dear person to me suddenly contacted me out of the blue today, after like 4 years of no contact. And I won't exactly say it was my fault that we were not in contact, but it was my decision that we that we take a break. It sounds like Ross and Rachel. Wasn't like Ross and Rachel, but he was going his way and I was going my way, and suddenly my life was in the midst of a huge upheaval, and his life was in the midst of a huge upheaval, and we don't live anywhere near each other, and so I needed time. And also, there were other things, like I guess he closed his Facebook account and then he opened up a new account, but the new account looked like a hacked fake to me, so I didn't want to accept a friendship request from this fake looking account, and so blah 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 blah. So anyways, for 4 years we haven't been in contact, and then suddenly a message popped up and it looked legit, and we started talking, and it was good. It was really, really good. So there's that too. There was that communication that I would mention with Mercury in Capricorn. And maybe our communication would help us now both reach goals that we have. His life has changed again for, I think, the better in the last 6 months or so. He's suddenly become a massage therapist in Thailand. And he's still got some more studying to do to get his big certificate, but he's got his little certificate so he can at least work as a masseuse in Thailand now. But if he wants to go outside of Thailand, it would be beneficial if he got the big certificate. And so he's still working towards that, which I thought was pretty cool. And I went and got my bicycle fixed today. So that kind of problem solving, putting mind to problem solving, and everything seemed to, like a Magus, flow very naturally from one thing to the next without any particular muscling on my part. I mean, yes, I bustled my muscles to pump the pedals of the bicycle, but not like I had to make things happen so that they'd fit into my schedule. You know what I mean? Things just naturally boom, 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 boom. I found I wanted to give my bicycle a good wash before I took it into the shop, and so I found a way to do that very easily, easier than I thought I would be able to. So a lot of those things were just bam, 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 without much. I mean, yes, it was will, but it wasn't like the Virgo kind of will. Yeah, it was more of the Leo kind of will, where things just naturally kind of, oh yes, this, I want this, and then okay, it happened, I want this, okay, that happened, and then yes, I got my bicycle fixed, and that was no problem. And then I figured out I didn't want to go there for dinner. I decided to go to, there's a shop right next door. I had dinner there, and I got home, and then the stuff I had to do at home, I got it done in very good order. I cured my new Dutch oven that I received just yesterday, and things were just boom, 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 like that. You know, does that make sense? So I think these cards were very clearly pointing in the direction of what I was just describing. Don't you think so? Do you think so? If you do think so, let me know in the comments below. If you don't think so, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. And friends, thank you for being here with me. And if you are still here, hit that thumbs up button so that YouTube knows that you got something out of this, and other people might get something out of this video too. It draws more eyes to the channel. And subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and hit the alarm bell so you get notifications of when I upload videos. I'm going to be going back to my schedule of like 3 videos a week come about a week from now. We're almost at the end of this deep dive. And if you've just joined this deep dive, I've got a whole playlist, and you can start from the beginning if you want. Just saying. If you want to get these decks, I have a link below to Christine Payne-Towler's, the beautiful, brilliant Christine Payne-Towler's website. This is a phenomenal deck to begin your journey into the continental tarot system. And yes, I do think of it as a different system than the Golden Dawn system. And perhaps we can split the Golden Dawn into 2 different systems of the Smith-Waite and the Harris-Crowley tradition systems, and the generations of those, and then the Marseille, and then I think there are different systems of tarot. Just saying. So of those systems, this is a great gateway into this continental tarot system. And then I also recommend this deck, which has helped me grow immensely as a reader and continues to help me grow as a reader. And this deck is readily available on Amazon. I've got a link to that page right below in the description box. And if you want a reading from me, my email address is there. Shoot me an email to thehangedmaninthemoon@gmail.com. We'll get you a reading. And so, friends, thank you. Thank you very much for joining me on this journey thus far, and hopefully coming with me to the end of this deep dive. And as always, I wish you love, joy, well-being, and pure awareness. Thank you.